Nour Jaouda for HYPER Annotations 3.0, Triple Ampersand's public program. Nour, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Nour is one of the artists presenting at the Biennale this year. Can you tell us a little bit about your work and perhaps how it does or does not respond to this year's theme at the Biennale, which is foreigners everywhere?
Okay. Hi, I'm Nour. I'm a Libyan artist. I'm based between Cairo and London. So my practice has always responded to foreigners everywhere because I'm a Libyan living in Cairo, moving between Cairo and London, and I think my lived experience kind of is an example of the theme of the Biennale. And the three works shown are like a material manifestation of these lived experiences of moving around. And yeah, like the three pieces that I'm showing at the Biennale are like three large tapestry pieces. They're inspired by like a Palestinian poet, Mahmoud Darwish, his poem about the Palestinian olive tree and the violent uprooting of the olive tree.
Yes.
So this poem kind of inspired these series about like movement and cultural mobility and displacement, but like I took it I kind of was inspired by it and I related it to my own lived experience.
Yes.
Of my relationship to land and the plants in Libya, like where I'm from. So a lot of my childhood is in Benghazi, Libya.
Yes.
And a lot of the trees in my drawings and the tapestries are of the fig trees in Libya, which is a very symbolic and like native plant in Libya.
Yes.
So I think it was just a very natural evolution of my process, and the theme had already tied in. It was just my practice kind of made sense with the theme.
Yes.
Yeah, and also I was very interested in how plants hold memory. And a lot of the works are kind of landscapes of memory and the space between the present and the absent. I was very interested in like the title Roots in the Sky. I got it from the poem. And it was kind of how we are kind of like plants in the sense of we don't depend on a single root to grow, and we kind of spread our roots as we go. So yeah, that was the main inspiration in relation to the theme.
And can you tell me a little bit more about your process, like sort of the physical process of making the tapestries?
Yeah, so it's a very labor-intensive process. Everything's handmade and it's very slow. They do kind of install like paintings, but they're the opposite of paintings in the sense of like they demand a very slow response and a slow like form of observing. I start off basically by hand dyeing the fabrics and a lot of cutting out and deconstruction. So there's a process called decollage, which is the opposite of collage, and it's basically creating meaning through taking things apart. And it's like it starts with the cutting out and kind of using the negative cutouts to create new forms and new meanings. And it's kind of a very tactile and physical experience. I do hope that the textiles feel like objects rather than paintings. It's very like labor and it's very slow.
Yes, no, but this is actually a really good segue because I did want to ask you about this sort of interplay between the two-dimensional, three-dimensional. Of course, the tapestries, you really feel the material, but at the same time, you really look at it as a sort of image or a flat surface. I tried to look behind them, and I saw, well, perhaps it was more about what's on the front than what's behind them, or perhaps not.
But also the back is very interesting as well because it kind of reveals the true and naked materiality of the fabric.
Yes.
But the thing is that these fabrics, they're not painted on, they're hand dyed. So the actual color responds to the fibers and the textiles. And I think there's something about dyeing the fabric rather than painting on it that kind of materialize it into like an object. And it's very like stacked and heavy and has hundreds of layers like within it. And I always did have this tension between like the surface and the physical object. Like it's kind of like a dilemma that I had with painting. I studied painting and I was never painting. So it's kind of this constant struggle and being obsessed with color, but color as a physical object and material rather than just pigment, you know, like something that comes from the earth, like an actual an actual material that has agency. And like I'm very interested also in like new materials theory. Like Karen Barad, I read about, I don't know if I'm saying the name right, but it's kind of about how materials and color like hold agency, and they're active. They're not like inert, uh, um, passive materials, but they do kind of carry a sort of social agency. And these colors are also sourced from Cairo, the markets of Cairo, and so are the fabrics. So they kind of highlight the social landscapes that I inhabit at times. So I think, yeah, it's definitely not just like it's not an image, it's a whole process. I think the process is the most important part, and I hope the viewer sees that. I think that's the aim of the work.
I want to ask something about your work in general, which I noticed. Perhaps not in the paintings that are here, but I still want to ask you just about these tassels, these sort of little bells you see, unlike the rope of a curtain or perhaps a curtain. Yeah, can you tell me a bit about how they function within your works?
Yeah, so these tassels were, like, I drew them from a series about the prayer mat, the Islamic prayer mat. And initially it was all about kind of, I first like sourced a lot of patterns and and collected a lot of iconography from like my family's past, like prayer mats that I collected in the house. I'd photograph them, redraw them, deconstruct them. And the one thing that all prayer mats have are like kind of the borders of the tassels. And I was very interested in kind of breaking that boundary between domestic spaces, because obviously like a prayer mat is a very spiritual space, and it constructs space wherever you go. You can place a prayer mat everywhere and you kind of form a spiritual space. And I was very interested in how the migratory nature of material, like the idea, that's why I became obsessed with tapestry. Literally like the physical ability to move it around very easily and to construct space as you go. So the tassels, like the carpets as you go, and also the tassels symbolize borders in a way. And they also, I don't know if it's related or not, but you know the crenellations, do you know what crenellations are?
No.
You know in Islamic mosques there's like, or castles, there's like these borders that are like ridges, and it's kind of a border that that divides between like the spiritual world and the material world. And I feel like there's something about the tassels that kind of deconstructs borders. So it was just a whole process of deconstructing of Islamic philosophy and like divine geometry, and like deconstructing it and reconstructing it to create new meanings.
Yes, well, that's very fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, we like to end things with a sort of light question. I wanted to ask you if there were any pavilions or artworks or shows that you found quite good or just notable, perhaps ones that you haven't seen but you're excited to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely see, I'm not biased, but the Egyptian pavilion is incredible. No, it really is. It's, Jaouda did an amazing job. It combines theater and history and sculpture and the glass and Murano glass from Venice, and like deconstructs historical accounts from like Egyptian history, and it's very like very nuanced and just a very special experience. I haven't been to the other pavilions. I'm yet to do that today, but I'm excited to see the French one, the German one, and also the Arsenale is incredible. I really enjoyed the first installation. As you enter, there's like a site-specific installation with, I think, belts or like airplane belts that were like weaved on the ceiling. I think it was incredible, and I loved Joyce's work in the Giardini exhibition, Joyce Joma, I think, and also Sandra Paulson's work in the really end as well. What else? There's so many. And there's amazing photography all around.
Really?
I haven't gotten the names, but there's some sick photographs. Oh, and the room with the glass easels. I think it's Elena Bobardi inspired. It's in the fourth room in the Arsenale. It's incredible. Yeah.
Great.
So that was so long.
No, that was great. Really great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much.